Hey guys, I'd like to welcome you to the Kortex Media Podcast, where we navigate the fast-paced world of automotive and more. I'm your host, Corson Schmidt. Here today, I have Chris McDonald. Chris is the president of WashLB, a rapidly growing technology-driven on-site car detailing company servicing apartments, offices, condos, and country clubs across multiple states. With a business degree from Temple University Fox School of Business, and a background in high-pressure sales and business development, Chris has steered WashLB through multiple revivals, market expansions, and operational challenges. Under his leadership, WashLB has become known for its affordable, convenient, and eco-conscious car care, a service that brings professional detailing directly to where customers live and work. Chris's journey is marked by resilience, creative problem-solving, and a vision to make WashLB the Planet Fitness of car detailing, accessible, scalable, and designed for everyday people. It's great to have you on, Chris.
Appreciate it, Corson. Thank you for inviting me.
No worries. So, before we dive right into it, just do you mind giving the audience a little bit of overview of kind of how you got into the automotive space and just the story that you kind of told me earlier through the email, so we can get a little idea?
Yeah, the automotive space was unintentional. Like I was kind of breaking it down yesterday. I started right after Temple. I started door-to-door sales, selling Verizon Fios, and did that for a couple years in Philly. And from there, we moved to Maryland. And I had to sell it in Walmarts. So that, but the door-to-door part really does parlay to the WashLB part because I had never done sales before. So I learned sales on 100% commission, which entrepreneurship, that's like the core of it. It's
Yeah.
So I learned the performance. I was a waiter before, it's performance-based, I guess. But it was interviewing, training, building a sales team, training other people on my team how to do the same thing. So you're kind of the way that it was the company's in all of North America, but it was like individual offices. So you were kind of almost like an entrepreneur within the office if you were able to take advantage of the opportunity. So from there, I left in early 2017, and I started a business development. Started a marketing agency for small businesses that I quickly realized I preferred the business development side because I would go door to door. I started with my friend Matt, who was on my sales team, selling the Fios, and then it was supposed to be a marketing agency, but I quickly realized when I would go to these businesses, the ideas I were giving them was business development and how to get, before I even knew, I was just doing it because I kind of just do things and then figure it out. I don't spend a lot of time, waiting and I just attack. So I was, trying to build them to scale before really knowing what that meant. But they never really had money. They were kind of small businesses that couldn't do anything. And that led me to a restaurant of a guy who had fired me a few years prior. And his business was failing. And then he was a client and I just liked it. And it was a good opportunity to take over the restaurant kind of with him. I didn't have equity in it, but that's where I saw like hands-on, it is like a natural kind of talent, like resurrecting organizations and knowing exactly what to do. And that long story short, I won't go into a whole podcast about it, but yada, 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 it led me to, that ended. I restarted Social Last Speaker. My prior business was someone else. And then that guy, my friend, Ricky from elementary school, found WashLB on Indeed because they were looking for a little help with like events and sales. So we originally got them as a client. Then it was similar with the restaurant crust. After like a month, I felt like this was more of a legitimate kind of long-term business than what I was doing. And I didn't like the SEO and stuff like that. I just liked building and turning around and leading businesses. And then that happened in early 2019. I ended my business. I was doing Uber and Lyft and then working part-time for WashLB, which then kind of died during COVID and then resurrected it 2021 and on. But it was not an intentional kind of automotive path. It was more so a business builder path.
Yeah, it just kind of fell into place, but that's super cool. What kept you motivated through the tough times, and what did you learn about leadership in the process of going through a couple companies and trying to build them out to something, and now that long process that you went through with WashLB?
I think a lot of it is genetic, quite frankly, like resilience stuff, because
Yeah.
I've had it my whole life, and some of that is kind of what you see growing up. I had a single mom who had to work a lot of jobs. So if you have a genetic predisposition, probably already with seeing stuff, it kind of just you have it or you don't. I kind of think the same thing with sports. Like you either show up in big moments or you don't. You can improve and experience helps, but you see people a lot of times the same people fold. Uh, but then really doing the door to door job, you're getting rejected countless times. I realized I didn't care. I was really good at it. I helped other people get good at it. And that I'll always look back 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from my life and being like, if I didn't do that, I don't know where I would have been. It was really a training ground for everything I've done since. So like the resilience thing with Wash will be a lot of it's self belief, and it's sometimes that has gotten me burnt because the business, like the restaurant, whatever that I'm with, maybe can't sustain that. But I just feel like if there's something there, I would look at when I was with that restaurant, it was a brick oven pizzeria, and I thought if Bertucci's has scaled, then why can't we? The only difference is the people at the top of the business. That's the only difference. So I just kind of, anytime something would happen, like I told you yesterday when the WashLB was really the last time it was going to die in March of 2023, and they said if you want to stay on, there's not going to be any money. You want to try to save it, it's basically all on you. That was one of the most exciting moments. I smiled, I hung up the phone, and then I literally thought everything's okay now. It's in my hands, and we quickly turned it around. I have a little problem when I don't have full control over it. But if I have the control, the responsibility, and the accountability, maybe it's just the way I'm wired. It doesn't really bother me if there's issues.
Yeah, well, and it's totally different, right? Like if you have control of a company, you're not having to vary with opinions of someone else, right? You're not having to go through someone else to make sure that they're on the same page. You can just bust out what you want to do for the company and really take the steps that you think are the best. And if you believe your steps are the best and you execute that, there's no doubt it's going to work as long as you keep pushing towards that end goal.
And at your own pace, because that's kind of what can bother me sometimes.
Yeah.
I like to move fast because you can always course correct, and you'll find out
Sure.
what happened. It may have been the right thing, but the wrong process. So, yeah. To answer your question about like the tough times, the leadership. The thing with the leadership, and that was part of the. Again, I think a lot of that's natural for people, but you obviously can get better. So reading, YouTube, but then real experience. It's a communication. I think a lot. There's a getting people to believe and whatnot, but more so for me is a communication thing. I've done every single thing in WashLB. So I've detailed the cars. I do customer service still. Unfortunately, I do accounts receipt. I do everything on the back end, the front end. My business partner does a lot of stuff on the back end that I don't do technically. But anything uh, our staff is doing, I have done. Like we just hired an intern in DC, Virginia, to do some business development stuff. I've done everything she's going to be doing. In Seattle, have it. I've done everything. The cars in every state we're in at night, in the morning. I designed the thing, so I can understand. When there's customer complaints, what's legitimate and what's not. Hold them accountable, or side with them if somebody's being a lunatic. So like that's a big thing with leadership. It was the same thing with the door to door. Is I did everything of the people that I was training. I did the door to door. I trained people to do it, and I think if you don't have that, it's kind of tough. A lot of corporations sometimes they'll have an opening at a high level executive position. They'll hire from without the organization, and I've never liked that.
For sure. No, it's totally different when you have full control and you've worked with a few people within the company, but you said that you and the one co-founder hit it off really good, and you guys always both had the same mindset at the end of the day.
Yep.
And that's super helpful, having someone that also kind of wants the same direction at the end of the day.
Yeah, and sometimes we debate and whatnot, which is good, but also kind of skill sets that. I mean, he's not full time now because of the situation. He works at Nike, but we do a lot of stuff together, and that helps because with the other partner, there were some issues that we both had, and that can slow down a lot of stuff and sabotage a lot of stuff. So
Yeah, for sure.
that's kind of why things have been able to move well. periods where it's difficult to build momentum.
Yeah, for sure. You guys have had some massive growth, and you're in kind of several states now. But what strategies do you use to make sure your employees are all trained under the same system, and make sure that your quality is consistent across different states?
So we set up, and that has been, it was something that was developed first in like a couple markets, and then a little trial and error. But again, that was me in every single market, so that kind of made it easier. I have a coordinated supply system, color coded bottles, certain chemicals go into this bottle, this tire shine in this bottle, whatever. So we have that. There's a checklist every Friday that they fill out of what they have. So things are organized. I always want to build it like a Papa John's, like a Planet Fit, like a Starbucks that have systems. I worked at Wawa and Elevation Burger when I was in college, and which are franchises. I don't know if Wawa's a franchise, but it basically is, in my opinion. And Elevation Burger was. So that's when I kind of saw. And then my first two jobs were at sole proprietors, a bakery and a deli. And I saw the hustle and whatever they had to do, but then I saw like the organized systems from Elevation Burger, and I always just saw like, and then the door-to-door thing I had was like super systematic with like these 4 things for sales, these 8 things, this how. So I kind of just learned that's how you have to, those are the best businesses. And I never wanted to be just in Pennsylvania doing the cars myself until I'm 50. And that would have been the easier route. I would actually make more. I would make more money last year myself personally. The business maybe not, but I always wanted to take the longer route of scaling it. So across the cities with the quality, it's a big part is having a good detail lead in each market, which I have in some of the markets. That helps significantly because I can't be there to train everybody. So what I realized is with our system, we can train anybody. But the first thing I do to ensure the quality is the hiring process. I filter out a lot of people. I'll look at their resume. They don't always need to have detailing experience, but I need to see certain things. And again, at the door-to-door thing, I was interviewing people all the time. So I saw their resume, I saw their background, and so I kind of just see certain things that could be obscure, and I would go, no. And so that filters out probably a lot of issues, because one of the biggest headaches and most chaotic things for me is hiring a bad person. Could take 3 weeks. There's complaints, there's issues, there's headaches. I'm trying to fix it, and then you have to fire them and hire someone else. So I really try to make sure that part is already defending me. And then having a guy with detail experience, like real detailers, because I'm not a real detailer. I've done the cars, I could do them in my sleep really well. But there's guys I've hired who are leading my different markets who are like real detailers. They help me build the supply kit because I refer to them because they know more than me in that realm. And then so we have those guys training the people. I have monthly calls with them. There's metrics that I have for the detail leads as far as efficiency for them and their team. Quality, we track all of that, and a few small things for like accountability, reliability. And so they're incentivized for that. I've been really good with pay and communication with my staff. So it's just one of those
That's
things.
the most important thing,
Run
right?
after pictures. Accountability is a big thing. I've gotten into an argument with at least once with all of my staff, some of my best ones, and that I think is necessary. And then it's cool after that. But there's just some things every now and then you have to work out. But it's the same thing if you were to look at a Papa John's or a Subway or whatever. Each one is a different franchisee that's running it, but they have, like when I worked at Wawa, there was videos when you got hired just as a very entry level guy at the cashier, where you had to take like 10 hours of videos. I don't have that luxury yet to do, but I try to like mimic that. And so anytime there's been an employee that has caused issues, I'm very quick to, and I always feel like it was me one way or another. I shouldn't have hired them, or I didn't give them the right stuff. Sometimes it really is just the people, and you got to move fast. And when you have great people, like I have in some of the markets, it's building a relationship, treating them fairly, incentivizing them, raising their pay when appropriate to like build and maintain that relationship, which is, I think, a big thing that maybe sometimes people miss.
For sure. Yeah, and like your employees pay your bills, right? Like you need them working for
No
you. If you
business
didn't have
without
them, you'd be, yeah, exactly, exactly. So as long as you're treating them well and they're happy, man, like you're gonna have a good company. You're gonna have a good team. And I was talking to someone on the podcast the other day, and he said you need to be good at firing. You don't need to be good at hiring, but you need to be good at
quickly.
firing, because if you hire people on and they're not doing work that you like, you got to be able to fire them right away to get that person that you're actually going to need, right? So that was some great advice that I heard there, and it's true, right? You can't be afraid to fire people if they're not helping the company grow and helping in the direction that you want, right? If they're causing chaos, I guess is a way to say it. You don't want them sticking around and ruining your reputation, right?
And there's intangible things. So that's one of the things that I guess I got good at or whatever. But I agree with the guy about being good, needing to be good at firing. I would kind of disagree. And I do think that there's a skill in hiring, but I understand what you're saying. It's not really a debate. But there's intangible things too. So like I hired a guy who had been detailing cars for more than I have been alive, and it didn't work out at all because he had his own way. He was a lone wolf kind of guy, detailer his whole life. He introduced it. Actually, just happened again. A guy who has been detailing for 20 years, a different guy, and it didn't work out. And then there's guys I hired who have no detailing experience, but they're really good, like workers. They always say a worker and an employee. A really good worker, and then you can also be a really good employee, or both. A really good worker is you do the work really well, but maybe you're not
Mm-hmm.
communicating all the time. You don't respond. Sometimes you don't show up every now and then. You're a little slow, right? That's a good worker. The good employees, to me, I value a little more because you can help make them a good worker more. But the good employee is all the intangible stuff: the reliability, the communication, the effort, the honesty. Um, and then I would say, just to end that, I'll say another thing with the quality and the systems too, with the staff is, since I have done everything a lot, I know, and I spend a lot of my days. Uh, I always say it's a lot of my days making sure there's no smoke. If there's smoke, putting it out before it's a fire, and then if it's a fire, immediately putting it out. So a lot of my days already kind of thinking ahead of what is going to be annoying for the staff as far as key exchange at apartments at night, parking, fob situation, all that kind of stuff. I spend a lot of my day trying to organize that. Instead of looking for the car, there's just small things you notice that are annoying when you got the opportunity to do everything, and that helps so much.
For
Because there's
sure.
invisible things. I think there's a lot of things. There's probably people who have quit on me, and there's things they just never say that were just things I could have fixed a month earlier that were just annoying them, and then they quit, and there's no
Yeah.
communication. And so I kind of realized that a couple years ago.
For sure, yeah, and you've kind of worn every hat, right? So you made the systems good for how you saw it when you were wearing those hats. But now that the company's grown and you guys have taken different steps, there might be little things that you don't see, and it's super nice when you have those good workers, like you said, or good employees that will speak out about that and be like, "Hey, I'm not a big fan of this. Do you think we can do it this way?" And if your employees are thinking like that, that's huge, right? Because they are wanting to grow themselves as a person, grow themselves as an employee. And if they're making like little suggestions here and there to help things maybe become more efficient, that's great. That's super cool. I think that's
I
awesome.
think super
And
important
I think
too. Yeah, like that. I have
for
a monthly
sure,
call
yeah.
with them. Even before I did the organized call, I'll talk to them sometimes. And the two guys in particular I've been detailing for years. One guy was at a Tesla dealership. Another guy's been doing it for 15 years. He was at CarMax, I think, one of those places. And like I said, I went to them to say I want to make the supply kit systematic, scalable everywhere we do the business. So it can't be. It's a whole different ballgame if it's just you and a friend, and you do homes and stuff, and it's kind of a business. You make the money. You can do supplies differently, but when you have, you know, seven, six, whatever, when you're trying to scale it. And so I went to them. They gave me recommendations and the gallons, and so they helped build the kit. And I think just like you start to become a little bit more a part of a growing business because it's not a corporation.
For
So
sure,
there's certain things that they can't get that a corporation could give.
for sure.
But
How big is your team? How many people do you have in each state working for you doing things
so,
at once?
well, I'm actually closing down one of the states, California.
Okay.
I had opened that up with another different friend from when I did the door-to-door sales. He was on my sales team.
Yeah.
and it just didn't work out. And I'm going through a period now where I want to decompress some of the business to focus on. I kind of admit that like I scaled maybe a little too much and overextended myself. And I want to I'm taking away that market and maybe another one to focus on the best markets we have to grow those, and then maybe launch a different strategic market in the fall for weather purposes and because we have a lot of markets that are the same weather patterns. So like a market that would be a little more neutral in the winter, but it's around 16, 17 employees that we have as far as a mix of detailers, intern, a couple business development people part time, and then my business partner.
That's cool. That's awesome. Or what were the best strategies that kind of helped you stretch resources and still achieve record revenues when you guys were going through tough times and then had those big years or big months that really got you guys going? What were some of those strategies that really helped you guys overcome those challenges and get to those next goals?
You're saying achieving relatively good month compared to what we used to do with low amount of resources at our disposal?
Yeah.
Um, a lot of it was just my partner and I doing a lot of things, which has helped. So one of the things is a year ago, if you asked us what would we do with the money, if we were able to raise money, what would we do with it? The first thing I would say is hire 5 people to help me to offload stuff that I'm doing that he's doing, and then you start to see some of the advances of AI and different things, and you go, oh, if we were to get the money now, it wouldn't be as many people. You may need 1 or 2, but you don't need, and it could be more efficient. So a lot of it still is now, us doing a lot of stuff that could be automated. So it's like, bootstrapping, whatever they call it. And the good thing is with the marketing, with kind of how we do it, since we do apartments and offices mostly, just started to get into country clubs, just starting to get into single family homes. But with the apartments and the offices, we didn't need any money for advertising really or marketing, because I would go, or if we ever had someone helping us to do the sales, you can get an apartment complex, the property manager, and then the way we like to do it this way is this one person that can disseminate the information to 400 people with an email every month. We put some flyers in there.
Sure.
So it wasn't a heavy cost of acquisition. Specifically, if I was the one doing the sales, we're not even paying commission or anything. So that was a good opportunity versus if you're doing single family homes, there's a lot of digital advertising and outreach and maybe some of the stuff that you do. But that was a thing. You get one person that casts a wide net, and then they could refer us to another apartment. So a lot of it was building relationships with the apartments, getting more apartments, tweaking how we promote and do like the emails and the flyers, the promotions, the right price point. Kind of the Planet Fitness thing I was saying is, a typical detail shop or a mobile detailer charges more than double what we charge, and we're more convenient. We come to you. And so that was a thing of like, you could do less cars maybe and the more money, but the Planet Fitness model of these people would never go to a gym if it was only LA Fitness and Bali or whatever. But the Planet Fitness is $10, $15 a month, and you get a lot of people that are going, and they have a good business countrywide. And I go there sometimes, it has anything I would need. If you're a powerlifter or something, you're not going to go there. There's also a stigma. I think people kind of think it's weak to go there. But I go there, it has the cables, it has the weight, it has everything you need. So with the way we do the detailing is, if you just want your car to look new, we can do it. We don't do play bar or anything like that, which can be confusing. It makes the booking process more confusing. It's harder to hire and train people. We can just boom, 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 drop in any city. So with the limited amount of resources, it was just over time learning how to keep stretching. Anytime maybe I thought we need money now, we're going to die, it wasn't the case. And we kept, going. And one of the things I did too was in 2023, when I elevated myself to the president of the company in March, one of the things I knew immediately was we had with the money and I was doing it for free, so there was not even a cost for me, for basically 8 months. One of the best investments that I chose to make was giving raises quickly to good employees, some of who are still with me, because I knew I had to compensate for something that was kind of dysfunctional still, kind of chaotic. They consistent hours. And so I have some bonuses here and there or some money, but like the consistent raises, like kind of like gunslinging with the raises to make sure that the good people stayed with me, who are some still with me, that I could continue to focus on other things and I didn't have to go back to chaos, which completely destroys growth. So it's kind of like building a moat with some of the staff and whatnot, doing certain things that I could focus on growth without needing anything.
And that's why you have the team there, right? You have them to do kind of the smaller work, but you can really focus on getting the company going. And that marketing aspect is such a smart way to do it, right? If you speak to anyone within the apartment, or even put a flyer on the door where everyone's walking through from the
elevators, yeah.
If you would have had a flyer there or the elevator, yeah, so many people are going to see that, and it makes it super convenient for them, especially in the cities where people are working and people don't have the time to get their car cleaned, and it makes it super convenient. And you really don't hear much about it. When I saw that you guys do this, I'm like, man, I've never heard of it. Now I'm from a small town. I'm not from a big city by any means. From a small town in Ontario.
Oh, Canada. I don't face much competition ever with exactly how I do it. Sometimes managers at the apartments, whatever, will tell me there's a guy that comes in here every now and then for a couple of residents. But the way we do it from an organized kind of partnership stance, I've seen one or two, and I've had it in 7 states, and not just the cities, in the suburbs of those states as well. And you don't really see it. Some of the way people do offices is different than how we do it. Maybe actually better. I've been looking into it, but yeah, it has some drawbacks to it that single family homes wouldn't. So that's why we're diversifying into more verticals. The demographic is also not necessarily the best because they're a bit younger versus offices dependent, country clubs for sure, and homes in the right areas have better demographic. But the positive of the apartments specifically and the offices that we do that helped us get through the growth is I could always go back to the well of here's the email for this month, send it out 300, but not everyone's even looking at the email. So like you said, the signage, and then we figured out, okay, everyone, if you have a garage, if there's 3 levels to the garage, there's an elevator lobby, every single person funnels through there. And so we would set up little tables with the flyer and the brochures and whatnot. And
that's awesome. It's a great idea to do, especially to really focus on apartment buildings because there's so many people that live in apartments.
There's so many now that I think.
There's so many. It's crazy. Yeah.
And then
you kind of spoke.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the other thing too with the sales, and I was saying how it disseminates to 300 people. Also, there's management companies of the apartments. So we built relationships with the Greystar, the Bazzuto, the Paradigm, whoever. And this manager knows this person, or I'll go on LinkedIn and talk to a regional property manager who oversaw 8 property managers. And I would get her to say yes and then disseminate that to the 8 property managers who would then disseminate the information to 300 people in each of the buildings. And so it was just versus single family homes is the challenge we're trying to tackle now because that's a completely different way of doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
But just to end it, that would be, I think, the biggest advantage we had without the resources is if we could go guerrilla, given the verticals.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So you kind of spoke earlier about AI and kind of making things more efficient. Obviously, AI is a huge industry trend in any industry, right? You're gonna have companies talk about AI and how they're getting a hold of it. But what are some of the trends that you're seeing more in the car wash side of things? Are you seeing more companies go to this remote style wash and detail, or are you seeing more brick and mortar companies coming up?
I know there's Spiffy, who's the biggest on site, and then they also do like a oil change, mechanic work, or whatnot. And they're on demand. They're the biggest that I'm aware of. Yeah, but they're on site. They do it differently than we do. They do homes and offices and whatnot. Where you go to the website, they have a lot of money, so they get people kind of to come to them and a home and an office and what. So I don't know. They make a lot of money. It's not the same logistically sound as us, but I see a lot actually of the brick and mortar stuff still of people, of certain kind of investors investing in the brick and mortar, but also other companies bigger than mine that have been acquiring smaller on-site detailing companies. Because there's one thing with I always say, even about my own business with the WashLB, the car wash itself is really not that valuable, in my opinion, even for my own business, because you could just go through a drive-through for $8. It's the interior detailing part while you're sleeping, drinking wine, at work, golfing, that you take it somewhere else. A lot of times that's an appointment. You got to Uber back and forth. It's a lot more expensive. You got to find it. So there's brick and mortar stuff with the actual car wash, because everyone gets so many cars and everyone gets their car washed. But then there's a simultaneous, I've seen like of smaller on-site companies with the detailing, which is really the advantage, getting acquired by people like Spiffy and some other ones.
For sure, yeah, definitely. It's one of those things, right? People are going to start adapting to a mobile service because that's what works, right? It's just like oil change or tire changes. It's pretty big here in Canada, where you're going to have mobile oil changes, mobile tire changes, and it's just something that's kind of started the past 5 years of companies really, really growing pretty quick too.
But it's the convenience economy, right? So like Uber,
Yeah, exactly,
DoorDash, we're
exactly.
very similar. I would say kind of the DoorDash of car detailing, because you
Yeah,
order it online. It's not like immediate necessarily; it could be the next day, but it's a thing in humanity of convenience becoming more and more prevalent.
yeah,
And maybe it's more convenient just to drive through and get your car washed. But if you want the interior clean, and one of the things that we're working on is figuring out how to properly kind of put things together, though, to get people to adopt keeping their car clean, specifically the interior, outside too, but interior, as a part of their monthly or bi-monthly habit. You
hmm
have maybe they have a home cleaner, or you do dry cleaning, or you clean your kitchen and stuff yourself. And a lot of people don't ever get their car detailed because it's expensive, because it's inconvenient. So we're looking to, when I saw FiOS, it was people had DirecTV or Comcast internet cable, and I'm switching them. With us, a lot of these people don't ever get the car detailed, so it's an opportunity, and also the challenge of figuring out how to psychologically get them to adopt it as part of, like, so we do recurring plans and single service,
yeah.
and getting them to adopt it as part of their monthly or bi-monthly routine, psychologically seeing the value in that, is one of the things that kind of is coinciding.
For sure. And you said that you want to start getting more into family houses, and those family vehicles and house vehicles. People that live in houses
Kids,
usually
dogs,
have families more than apartments. But yeah, their vehicles aren't going to stay clean if they have kids, if they have dogs, right? It's going to be they're going to want that vehicle clean like once a month on that subscription plan that you guys
and
have.
have theoretically
Because
more disposable income than a 29-year-old
yeah,
old that, at the apartments that we look at, who may be getting paid well in DC, but they don't value it as much. So like that's kind of just like I want to get into a switch up the markets we're in, and then be a little more strategic, so that we're never operating where every single market we're in is the winter and the summer at the same exact times. It's the same thing with the
yeah,
verticals, like you were saying with the homes. They'll have kids, more likely, more money, dogs, and that's exactly why you want to keep it
and
clean and need to keep it clean all
yeah,
the time. Versus some
yeah,
young guys like you and me, maybe it'd be, if I was a customer of my own business, I would use it like once or twice a year, quite frankly, because
yeah.
of the car and kind of where money, the life. But for the older people, the kids and the dog or whatnot, specifically anyone who has a dog, you keep that, you feel so good, and then it's kind of getting people to realize how much better you feel driving it once you get it clean the first time. Maybe try us again a second time, and then we have mechanisms kind of to get you then on a recurring plan at a discount. You tried it out a couple times, you
For
see
sure.
how easy it is, how good you feel. But yeah,
No, that's awesome. It's yeah, it's funny because I remember when I was growing up, we always had dogs, and we were always wild kids. We lived on a farm too, right? So it didn't help. Vehicles were always a mess. But now that we're growing up, the vehicles are spotless. Now that we're not in our parents' vehicle, and it's just hilarious to actually think about. But yeah, so this next question I have is more on the demand. So have you seen more demand for a company like your guys's in the past couple of years, or has it slowed down a little bit
you mean demand from investors or customers?
from
from customers. Yeah, I think one of the things that we had a challenge with in 2021, in particular, dripped into 2022, was the lockdown hangover kind of thing, and not as many people stick with.
For sure.
You know, the work from home thing it still exists, but it's more hybrid. So the demand has gone up. We've been doing better than ever by far. Every year we've been doing better. So the demand has gone up. I don't know enough to know if it was a psychological thing. I know that there's some things with people are driving their cars more, going out more than it was in 2021. But I couldn't tell you if we're doing a better job of stuff or just a natural kind of migration. But it's certainly not slowing down. It's not going to slow down because you would want your car clean in 1950 and 2025. And the convenience thing is only growing. The DoorDash and the Uber and the different stuff. So the convenience aspect, the financial component.
No, for sure. That's I can definitely see that because people are just getting lazier. I hate to say it, but it's true. People are just getting lazier, and if you can make something more convenient, they're going to get it off, right?
They have. I see now mobile dog spas, mobile dentist. I saw a couple of days ago. Mobile nail, technical salon, whatever. So
yeah. Well, so why not detailing, right?
And that's the thing with the apartments is it's in their interest majority of the time. It always in their interest. Sometimes they don't realize it, but it's in their interest. Like some of the apartments we work with, they have the Tide dry cleaning thing, which the residents, I don't know if you've ever seen it, the residents go down and they put their dry cleaning in some kind of a thing. Tide has a system, they dry clean it for you and return it. There is some kind of dog walking thing some of the apartments we work with have. So it's a thing, and it's kind of how things are moving. Similar probably to, in some ways, we're seeing the beginning stages of it disrupting industries, car detailing, nails, dog walking, dentists. Similar in some ways, off the top of my head, of like a DoorDash and an Uber disrupted the prior generation of classic delivery drivers and taxis.
Well, even look at Amazon. Like it's the same aspect, right? It's making it so much convenient so people don't have to actually go to stores and do a lot of the shop. Yeah. And why wouldn't people use it? It shows up to your house the next day, or maybe even a couple hours if you're close to an Amazon warehouse. Like it's crazy. And people will eat as much stuff as they can up if it's convenient, because a lot of people want to save time and they'll pay a little bit extra to save time, especially if it's coming straight to you.
100%.
Yeah, I think it's like and especially if you get talking to like business owners, say if they have super luxury cars, they're never gonna have time to, like if they're driving like a Mercedes Benz or like a BMW or like even a Lambo or a Ferrari, they're not gonna have time to clean their car. They're gonna be driving back and forth to the office, back and forth to work, and they're gonna need someone to do it for them. They probably already have someone to do it for them, but they're still gonna need that car clean because they don't want to be in a dirty car at the end of the day.
Exactly. And even if they had time to take it somewhere, those kind of people, it's a kind of a thing of like, no, someone comes to me and does it.
Yeah, they'd have a specialized person to do it, and there you go. You might be WashLB.
Could be, and that's one of the things with the country clubs that I've always wanted to get into. It's a tough thing to get into, quite frankly. It's more of a networking thing, but we got into one that's been working really well because you have people that have the money. You can price it differently. Sure. They value it better. In fact, if we discounted it like we did at apartments, they may not even sign up. There's psychological components to pricing like that. But for sure, with the verticals and demographics, I equate it to an airplane. There's the economy, and I saw a video about someone broke down the economics of airplanes, and there's the economy section, which is like 80% of the seats, 50% of the money or something, if not less. And then there's like a business class, first class, and then something above that. And they said there may only be 7 seats in the top one, but that makes like 20% of the revenue for the plane. And I look at the same kind of been equating it to WashLB with the different verticals. And what's the economy section? What's the business class? Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great example. Like it's just how it is, right? What are some of the goals for the company in the next kind of 6 to 12 months? Where do you guys want to be? Are you guys looking to get into those other markets? Are you guys looking to kind of hone in on a couple different states. What's your goals for the next 6 to
The
12?
goal for the rest of the year is to, I'm closing down LA. Didn't work, and when the one guy left, that didn't work out. It was gonna have to be me. Overextended. Figured it was best to eliminate a headache. I may take another market that is not doing as well for some reason. Focus on the really strong markets. Maybe launch it for one, like I was saying, it's only specifically for weather, but it's really to get into a position that we're working on now, already getting into there, where the business development for apartments is offloaded from me, where there's a person that kind of, in some ways, needs a person. You could utilize the effort too, I guess, but kind of need a person in some regards. Having somebody doing the apartment stuff, figuring out a better way of how we get offices, which is a little bit of a thing we haven't figured out perfectly yet. Maybe figuring that out. Boom. Country clubs, and then homes, really growing the home market in a couple of our states and figuring out we already unlocked how to do apartments. I can hire somebody in the market like I'm doing now, teaching them how to do it. Homes, we don't even know yet the perfect way to do it. So we really want to expand more into homes, condense the business a little bit in order to take one step back to get 3 sets bigger. And then I know we're in a position now where we're really starting to look to fundraise so that we can put money into more stuff like AI. Some of the stuff I'm doing every day, I should not be doing. There's AI that can handle it. Even our booking system on our platform for someone to have an account, a lot of questions that come in, we're to reverse engineer it with the appropriate funding and whatnot. It's because the back-end system of when they sign up or whatnot is kind of archaic, and we put some money into that. They could handle some of their issues on their own. And then there's AI to handle certain things. So it's really getting, I've been reading this book, Traction, by Gino Wickman, and a lot of it's just on, I would recommend it for you actually. It's highly regarded. I heard it on a podcast recommended, Traction by Gino Wickman. And it's about systems, entrepreneurial operating system. And a lot of it, just to break it down the most simple way, is getting yourself in a position where you're working on your business, not in your business. And so much of my day is in the business. And every now and then I can work on the business. And that's the biggest impediment to growth. So our goal really is to how we can scale it. And that's why we're trying to raise money too, to make that happen a little more realistically, where my partner and I can spend a lot more time working on the business. So for something that may take 2 months, but it's a big fish kind of a thing, it's the Las Vegas Raiders or whatever. It's a bit than just an apartment, but it may not be. I've dabbled with hospitals where you have 8,000 people who are making good money, but that you can't just walk into a hospital and they sign up like I can do in an apartment. So in the business, in a sense where it's growing, because we have other people that are working on it. We have more of an organization, and we can work on something like Penn Medicine Hospital, whatever. That could take 2 or 3 months, but it's cool because we've raised some money. We have other people building the business, and it may take 2 or 3 months, but when we get it, it's an incredible part of the business. Versus up until now, we can't afford where I don't put any points on the board for 2 to 3 months. So that's the biggest thing. We were able to outsource the detailing of the cars, where I'm not really ever doing that anymore. And that's a big thing because of how time consuming that is. Our next component is outsourcing the sales and business development. And then we're going to be outsourcing the kind of administrative customer service stuff, whether with AI or a person.
That's super cool. Yeah, I love how you have everything kind of planned out, right? That's the biggest thing. As long as you know where you want to be and take those steps to get there, it's the biggest thing. And you have those little goals that you need to hit to get to that destination where you want to be. That's one of the biggest things of growing a company, right? Because you got to make sure you're in the right mindset, knowing where you want to go, right? If you have a boat, if you're driving a car and you want to go forward, you think you're going to go backwards before you end up actually.
And that was some of me
knowing where you want
and
to
that
go.
was for me when I was given the reins in 2023 was wild. So I did kind of overextend with it because just go, and then you course correct. But that was kind of like what you think of it, why was I scaling so much to different markets? It's 2 time zones, morning and night. it's disrupting me more than it's benefiting now because it's harder to grow each one versus focusing. And I saw a podcast, not to ramble, but I saw a podcast from Papa John, by John Schnader, the guy who created Papa John's, like a year ago, and he actually said the same thing in his early stages of Papa John's. He was expanding too much, and they said, ah, shit. And then he had to take down some stores, focus on these stores to work out some processes and systems in a more manageable situation, and then it exploded. And that's kind of what triggered
For sure.
my mind of like, oh, I think I was doing the same thing.
No, that's awesome. At least there's that information out there, right? That's the biggest thing, is you can find so much information, whether it be through books, whether it be online. There's so many people willing to help others and have that information available, like Papa John's little thing there. And he's totally right. You need a foundation before you can really start scaling things. As long as you've got a solid foundation, you have a solid backbone to support the company to take that scale where you want it to go. And it's great that you realize that the company is scaling a little bit too fast, and it's getting a little bit wonky, and it's sweet that you're bringing it back down to make sure you're controlling it. Yeah, that's super cool. That's great as an entrepreneur mindset aspect, knowing that you're going a little bit too fast and you need to bring it just down a little bit and take control of some little things so you can really take that next step.
And it's grasping, because especially with me, in my mind, I go, I like saying 7 states, but you go, it looks like it's getting smaller. I could go even to 5 states. I just include DC. I just claim that as a state for simplicity purposes. I know it's not. But you could go to 5 states instead of 7, and it's smaller for a month, but maybe by month 2 or 3, it's bigger than it would have been if you just stayed and you're less stressed. So it is that kind of like one step back for 3 or 4 steps forward. It will get smaller because you kind of are in survival mode, so you're scared. Oh, I don't want to make it smaller. But it would just, you trim the fat, as they say.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's it, right? That's super cool. That kind of just, my next question is going to be for other entrepreneurs facing setbacks about kind of reviving a struggling business. What advice would you give them? But that's kind of almost some of the best advice you could give there, is to make a solid foundation before you step out of your comfort zone and start expanding faster than you think you can.
Yeah, and I would also, I've spent, well, 33, I've spent since 18, I probably spent, quite frankly, I don't know the exact number, at least 20,000 hours with YouTube, 15 years. So I would say, like, I've been educated for free so much from YouTube. I don't read as much as I would like to consume information visually and audio, which is just a book. There's no difference. It's just how you like to consume information. So you call it reading or watching. But that would be another thing I would say. You could get so much, that Papa Johnson. And it could be, I'm watching a podcast. This always happens. I'm watching a podcast that's 2 hours while I'm doing some work. And a lot of it, I'm not really interested in this and that. And then there's 2 sentences from a guy. That's how I found out about this book that I just recommended to you. And I just, of a 2-hour thing, it may only be a 20-second part of it, but it was super beneficial, So that's been a big thing for me too, because not like just supernatural that I know how to do everything. And I still don't know how to do a lot of stuff, but I've learned from, you read a book about Ben Franklin, you're learning from Ben Franklin, who's dead, or you're a Papa John's, podcast. People who have built and scaled businesses I started to get into late last year. Some guy with HVAC kind of stuff, similar stuff to car detailing, service based. It's not tech necessarily, it's just tech enabled, and then you just learn for free.
Yeah, it's the best way to do it, right? Podcasts, and then we have that accessibility out there, so why not use it, right? It's there for a reason.
Kind of what you're doing.
Yeah,
Actually,
exactly.
Literally what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. If you could go back to when you started the company, what advice would you have given yourself? Or I guess didn't start, but when you took over as
I was going to say, yeah. Well, I would even, if I were to think about, because I started with them in 2019, you're saying what would be the advice I would give if I time traveled or something?
Yeah, like if you could go back and be like, hey, don't do this, and you're a moron for doing that.
It would be, if we just go back to when I took over the leadership in March 2023, it would be what I just spoke about of stabilize in Pennsylvania, DC, and Virginia. Those were the 3 markets we were in. Don't rush to go on the West Coast and then do all this. Just stabilize in these markets. Luckily, it worked out because my 2 best employees are the guys who started kind of with me in early 2023 in PA, DC, and VA. And without guys like that, the business crumbles. But that would be my biggest piece of advice would be without other than like these 8 things you tried, micro tactics didn't work. Just do this, which is kind of a cheat code. The macro thing would be like relax a little bit. Yeah. Or the markets, and then it will probably also be think about what markets you're going into a little more strategically before you go in there.
For sure. No, that's awesome. What your biggest role model in your entrepreneurial journey?
Truly from books and YouTube. One of the guys I've always loved is Ben Franklin because he was an entrepreneur in his early life. So I read the first part of a biography of his from like 30s or 40s that someone gave me, and I'll read that like once a year. It's like an 800-page book, and I've never made it past like page 300 because I just love his first like 35 years of life. And I learn a lot when I'm just reading that and the different stuff that was going on, and it's so insightful. He's a guy I've liked since I was like 19. He was a printer. He opened a print shop in Philadelphia, which is I'm from right outside of Philly. And then just I don't really look up to people in the sense of like one guy, or I've never really actually in real life have had the opportunity to have like a mentor in my life, which has probably not helped. But from a distance, Ben Franklin is one of the guys that I really like to study because leading a business too is, one of the things I've studied a lot on is intangible stuff versus if you're an accountant or a defense attorney or something, it's more tangible things, the law, the accounting, the rules, the tax, the this and that, versus leading a business, so much of it is intangible stuff. I don't know that much about cars, but I can run a business in the guys that I hire who are real detailers know more about cars than I do. You go to a football team, the GM of the Eagles, one of the best in the league, could not play football ever, but he knows how to run a team. And so it's just, I couldn't even tell. There's so many books or YouTube videos I've gone to. But
that's awesome.
I really like Franklin.
That's awesome. I'll have to look into more Ben Franklin. I haven't actually, I haven't heard much about him. I haven't really looked into much about him. But now that you're bringing it up,
there's his biography by Carl Van Doren. It's old.
Okay.
But it's like the first 200 pages is very interesting.
All right, sweet. I'll definitely look into it, man, for sure. Where can people find you? What website? Your social medias? If they wanted to get their car detailed, maybe they're in the area.
It's WashLB.com. Very simple. And on Instagram is wash.lb. And that's where we're at. Probably with my intern who's younger. Not that I'm old, but we'll get onto TikTok, but we're not there yet. And cool. So yeah, awesome. Those would be the website or my email, chris@washlb.com.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today, Chris. It's a good conversation, a ton of insights on building businesses from building startups, really, because you've been through quite a few now and you've stuck with one and you've made it work, man. It's a tough thing to do, right? To take a business that's struggling and really turn it into something. You've experienced it, so you'd know, but from what you've told me today, it sounds like it's been a tough journey, but you guys are finally thriving and things are really moving forward for you. So I appreciate you telling us the journey and bringing us through it. And
that'd probably be my last piece of advice is if you know the meme of the guy who's digging gold and he gets to like here and he stops with the gold right there.
Yeah.
Like there was a time recently this year where I considered ending everything, quite frankly, for the business. And I'm glad I didn't. But I always think about that meme. But now some of it's intuition. I don't know how to even you could translate that. Everyone has their own thing and being in tune with that.
Yeah.
But sometimes it is time to go. When I was at the Rick Oven restaurant, it was time to go. I should not have stayed a day longer. I stayed too long at the sales job. Like when we went to sell in Walmarts in Baltimore, I stayed too long and probably didn't gain anything. But I always think about that gold thing of like, if you feel like quitting, just stay another couple months and see what happens building it, because you don't want to be 75 years old and living in regret. Is kind of what I was.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome, man. I appreciate you taking the time to come.
Appreciate you inviting me, bro.
Conversations. Yeah, no worries, man. We'll have to we'll stay in touch
for
sure.
Let me know.
Awesome. Thanks, man.